The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make the louder noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Nephew. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat above us. We're with you. It's time for pickup. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's good to have you along for the ride on this Wednesday, April 12th, Thursday, April 13th. If you're on the East Coast, hope you had a great day. Thanks for joining us. We are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North, 7 days a week. Let's welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial stations. WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We're live as well on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. world. We're also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. Remember, if you're listening to the Double R Machine, it is a donation station funded by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Like our music? Then rock with us to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, you can give us a follow on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. And if you go over to patreon.com for as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radio as well. If you want to take part in the show, you have to sign into one of our chat rooms on our website by clicking Listen Live on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UniPRN chat room, or if you're a valued member of the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook. Or if you're on Twitter, just use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I will get to your questions and comments in there as well. If you head to our website for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR space traveler. And we have a news section called The Encounter Online that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can also check out my latest blog there as well. And if you've had an experience you just can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on. We're breaking this show into two different segments tonight. First hour, The Encounter Online's Eric Markham will be with me, asking some of your questions about my own personal experiences and what led me to create Spaced Out Radio. The reason why we do this every so often is because we're always gathering new listeners. So we want to make sure everybody understands that this isn't just your normal everyday radio show or podcast, that we are trying and seeking out the truth. Spaced Out Radio went on air on November 30th, 2014, and since the beginning, we have been going live 7 days a week. What led us to that point? Well, we're going to go over it momentarily. In hours 2 and 3, we have the lovely and good friend of this show, Lorien Fenton, coming on to join us. Lorien has a very steep background in super soldiers, black operations, UFOs, alien contact. She has seen and studied some pretty heavy material when it comes to the covert side of the government and ET contact. She's going to break it all down for us tonight as well. So we bring in, from The Encounter Online, Eric Markham, my friend, colleague, scholar, scientist. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Dave? Thanks for the intro.
Oh, thank you, my friend. You know what? I'm looking forward to this first hour, my friend, because you come along quite a bit behind the scenes. And yes, you come on air with me, but there's a lot of people who don't know how much effort that actually goes into producing this 3-hour show. So tonight was supposed to be the Crypto Guru night, Ronald Murphy, but he is dealing with a family sickness right now, so he had to cancel out on us. So we figured, what the hell? Let's just do this, man. It's been a while since we updated our brand new listeners, and this is the way I look at it, Eric, for us to be able to bring our fans together, understanding that if they are listening for the first, second, or third time, don't really know what we're about, this is a good way for them to get to know what we do around here.
Oh, absolutely. This gives us an opportunity to paint a picture and show people what they're listening to and what we do to try and keep it fresh and keep it going.
So the fun part about this is you're actually going to interview me the first hour, and I'm giving you carte blanche or whatever you want to ask me, my friend. Whatever you want to ask me, you go right ahead. Because I'm pretty sure the audience is going to have a bunch of questions as well. And so let's fill them in. Let's just do this and fill them in. What do you say?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm waiting.
Okay. Now, you just had a guest on this week that you called the Godfather of SOR. Let's go into that a little bit. I know the story, but some of these people probably don't, and how SOR evolved into what we see today?
Well, let's go do this. Let's do this. Spaced Out Radio was not even a thought on October 2nd, 2014. We went to air November 30th of 2014. That's how quickly it came together. Johnny Enoch, who was our guest on Monday night, I had emceed his UFO conference in Vancouver. And so what happened was, he got a lot of compliments. I hadn't stood behind a microphone at that point in let's see, I retired from radio in 2007. This was now 2014, so 7 years. And I never thought I would go back to it, but I decided to volunteer and help Johnny run his UFO conference in Vancouver, and he needed an MC. So I said, dude, I'll take care of it for you. I'll take care of it. And he's like, really? He goes, you do that? And I'm like, yeah, not a problem. Because he actually, believe it or not, had manifested that he wanted somebody with a broadcasting background to step in front of the microphone and MC the event. And within 2 weeks, and I, at that point, didn't even know Johnny from Adam. I'd said hello to him on a couple of posts on Facebook. I had messaged him because I learned about the event through Samantha Mowat. So after the conference happened, Johnny kept nagging me, Dave, we got to get you back on the radio. And believe it or not, and I know this is going to sound very silly, Eric, but I had absolutely no idea what online radio was all about. Never heard of it. I had heard of podcasting, but the only thing I knew about podcasting since coming out of radio was the fact that we have radio stations who will put podcasts on their website for you to listen to if you missed a show earlier on in that day. So that's what I thought podcasting was. But Johnny opened my eyes to this plethora of online radio regarding these topics. And I kept on saying no. And he kept hounding me, and I said, okay, we'll have a meeting about it on October 2nd. And so we sat down for literally 3-4 hours at my house. And we said, okay, if we're going to do this, I don't want to do an hour. I don't want to do once a week. Let's either go big or go home. And if we falter, we'll just call it the day. If it continues to build success, we'll run with it. So immediately the plan was to launch on November 30th. I said I needed about 6 weeks to get ready and start gathering information, and we got an email together, and that's all we really had was a Facebook page, an email, and I didn't know a single person in this field besides people at the UFO conference, and we decided to go for it. We threw it all in, and we decided to go 7 days a week. So on November 30th, 2014, Johnny helped me launch Spaced Out Radio, and we've never looked back.
Well, that's quite to have gone from zero to a show by, in basically 6 weeks. That had to be something. Now, you were an experiencer before the show. The show is more... Your experiences, did they have something to do with creating the show once you finally decide to take the plunge?
The only way I know how to do radio is on a journalistic side. And a lot of people will question that, but that's what I went to college for. And so the one thing when we had that conversation with Johnny is it wasn't really about my experiences. My experiences, whether it was with Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, aliens, it really didn't matter. It was about getting to the crux of the story. And when we had that conversation leading up to the creation of Spaced Out Radio, the one thing that I was adamant about was I wanted to try and bring some journalistic integrity to this topic. Because the one thing that Johnny had taught me going through this was that there wasn't a lot of journalism, so to speak, in the fields of the paranormal. And believe it or not, I was so naive. I didn't realize getting into this how many different shows there were and how many people were going. I thought, literally, and how stupid of me at the time, looking back, I thought we could come on here, we could produce a show, like a certain nighttime show that was, in my opinion, getting stale, and we could emulate what they used to do in the late 90s, early 2000s, and everybody would flock to us. Or at least a big group of them would flock to us. And it didn't happen. So, as much as it was, and I go through a lot of my experiences, Eric, in regards to what I've gone through personally, journalistic integrity has always been the main focus of what we do here at Spaced Out Radio, because without it, we're just an everyday show that really isn't going to go anywhere. And we want to try and make this go somewhere. I mean, why not? The calling has been strong. Everything has fallen into place so far. It's just a matter now of seeing where it goes.
Well, you have to maintain this balance. Like, let's take a guess that we think they're totally out to lunch. How does your education in journalism and your experience help you respect this guest and let them get their opinions or their what they see as the facts out? And you have to keep your suspension of disbelief, or what, you have a habit of keeping a respectful tone, even with the guests that's so far out to lunch that they're in another world. Yeah, where do you get that?
And you know what? That's a good question, because I look at it two ways. Number one, we have a motto behind the scenes: we believe everybody. And that may sound dangerous to a lot of people, but the one thing I always want people to say when they ask me about that is, I say, look, you haven't stepped into my shoes, yet you believe me. So who are we to say that someone else's experience isn't what they experienced? Right? And yes, there are some guests, and I'll never put them out there, I'll never use their names, but there are some guests where we call them one and done. Because you could tell right off the bat, or within minutes, that they were absolutely BSing. Or giving some made-up story because they're looking for their 15 minutes of fame and they just want an interview. I'll never call those people out. It's gotten to the point where I almost have on the air, because the BS meter is going a little thick, but we try and give everybody an opportunity to speak their mind and their story, because everyone is different. And this is where I have a big problem with people who are skeptic or naive or critical. I think it's good to keep an open mind. And the reason why we keep an open mind is because we don't know. So just because someone hasn't experienced something that you have, or the same way, or somebody's opinion is different from yours. I read the chat rooms, I read Twitter, I read the comments on social media, or the people who email me. I take them very, very seriously, because I think that's what a good host should do. But a lot of times, I think the frustrating part for me is we're trying to vet every guest that comes on to the best of our ability, and yet some of them don't resonate with the people who are listening, and that's okay. That's going to happen. But when I see people getting critical because something that a guest said doesn't match up to 2 + 2 that equals 4 in the listener's mind, and they start going off, I get a little bit defensive on that. And probably I shouldn't take it personally, but at times I do, especially if I know the guest personally, because in the end, I know their story. And if all we're here to do is trounce on every guest because they may be in contact with 40 different alien species, they may have the ability to call down UFOs, they may have the ability to communicate with spirits or something along those lines, whatever you may feel, have an open mind. You know?
Well, you know, we have to react to these factions within the paranormal community.
Absolutely.
There's people who believe in Bigfoot that think UFO people are nuts, and you have actually had more or less the perfect trifecta of experiences, which puts you in a unique place. I mean, you're open-minded about that.
Absolutely. And before I answer that, I want to get to hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Deb is asking a question. She goes, "That's why I always love listening to George Knapp. He says he respects everyone's opinion. Who is my mentor?" Or, "Dave, who is your mentor?" My mentor is George Knapp. I've never met the guy. I like him. I think he's a solid journalist. And we need more of that on the radio. Somebody who isn't afraid to stick their necks out on the line for the story. Somebody who has battled stories in court, like George did recently. There are a number of people whom I respect. A gentleman that, unless you're in the Vancouver area, you won't know. A good friend of mine named Bruce Claggett. He works for my old radio station. And I started there before Bruce did. And he has way outlasted me. But somebody like him, if I have any radio questions, when he speaks, I listen. Because he is just absolutely that good on the air. He's got the voice, he's got the tone, he's got the beautiful delivery of words, and he's got the integrity that goes behind him. So there's a lot of people out there that I absolutely respect. And you know what? Going back to the 90s and 2000s, I loved Art Bell. I absolutely did. What made me fall out in love with the entire topic was that nighttime show stopped doing what we do. All of a sudden, everything became sort of esoteric. So that's who I would respect. So your question about my own personal experiences, I think it would be something along the lines of, when you have experienced what I have, from Bigfoot to UFOs to ghosts to intuitiveness that I never knew I had to alien contact, it opens your eyes. But the one thing I want the audience to understand, Eric, is that I didn't ask for this. I didn't know that this would happen to me. I lived a very happily boring life outside of this. I had my family that I did family things with. I had a bunch of friends, most of whom I no longer talk with because they really don't like or care for this stuff that we talk about on a nightly basis. I was close with members of my family, some of whom I no longer speak with. Maybe it's because of this show, maybe not. I have no idea. I lived a very extroverted life, and this is things that I don't usually get into. But the one thing I can say is that I'm happy with what we're doing. And if we can try and pass on any sort of message to people who are listening in regards to tolerance and trying to solve these issues and these problems and these mysteries that people are having on a daily basis, that's what we have to try and do. Because I don't like where the field is going. And I have to be honest with you, and not to be rude or crass to a lot of other online radio shows or podcasts out there, but some of them I can't believe they have an audience. And I'm not trying to put us on a pedestal. I'm not trying to do that, okay? Because I'm way too Canadian for that. But I can honestly say this. Part of the problem that we have here with online radio and online media in general is the market, whether you're printing something out or typing stories or radio broadcasting or YouTubing or whatever it is. The market, to me, is so oversaturated that it's hard for people to give up any time to listen to quality and not quantity. And that's what makes me scratch my head at night. I hear so many people bitching and complaining about the other shows that are out there. And personally, the shows they are complaining about, I think they're pretty decent. I think those people work hard. Never met any of them. Never even talked to any of them. But it always amazes me how there are shows out there where if they were on any terrestrial radio station, they would have been booted off by now. Yet you look at their audience, and you're like, why are you listening? And so what we are trying to do is, maybe we're a little bit too old school in that way, where we are actually trying to bring back what was of radio, rather than looking forward to what is. But I think we're doing our best. And that's why it's so important for me to stay in touch with the audience, whether it's in the chat rooms. Like if you guys saw me, I got 3 screens going. I've got 5 different chat rooms going, and Twitter. So that's what I try and do, is I try and absolutely bring that common core of the experience back to the people. And hopefully, just hopefully, one day, the right set of ears will listen to this and say, damn it, we got something. We definitely got something.
Well, I think another thing that SOR does, and it's, I'm kind of agreeing with Bill Hauser here in the chat, the Spreaker chat. SOR is a family, and I know that you and I both get very defensive of our SOR family.
We do at times. Yes, we do. You know, I want to read a comment here by Canadian Joe at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. He says, even though the market in paranormal radio is saturated, the cream rises to the top. Absolutely. But I can tell you this. I'll add to that for a second. The biggest problem that we have in the paranormal field is focus. And that was a word that was drilled into me by one of my instructors in broadcasting school, was the word focus. We must have heard the word focus about 40, 50 times a day. And a lot of these shows, what's happened is because there is no focus. So if you get that orphan listener who is trying to find a home, maybe they haven't heard of SOR or Midnight in the Desert or Coast to Coast or Jimmy Church or Clyde Lewis or anybody, and they take a listen to somebody on Spreaker or Blog Talk Radio or Mixler, and they hear this and they think, oh my God. That's the problem. They tune out. They tune out. That's why at the end of the show, I always try, and I'm not doing this to suck up to our listeners or anything, but that's why I say, help spread the word. If you like this show, help spread the word. Whether you're listening in on WQEE or the United Public Radio Network or Revolution Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, or you're listening on our website at spacedoutradio.com. If you like what we do, spread the word. Because if you want that entertainment and you think that this show has what it takes to not only earn your ears, but your friends, your family, and people who are in these topics, that's the only way we can try and bring that message out a little bit bigger and a little bit better. It starts with the audience. I can do so much. My team can do so much. But in the end, it's you, the listener, that has the say. And that's the most important say of all. Because if you're going to tune in, radio stations are going to listen up. Just like Ryan O'Neill did at WQEE. The first time he heard Spaced Out Radio, he chose us over the other guys. Joe Montaldo is very good friends with George Norrie. Joe owns the United Public Radio Network, but he chose us. And because of Joe, we're picking up around 120, 130,000 listeners a night. So we're getting there. But your word audience, whether you call up your radio station, your local AM radio station or FM talk radio station, whatever it is, and you hit them up and say, look, guys, you gotta check something out here. This is what I'm listening to at night. They will listen. Because if enough people do it, they go for it. That's how radio works. And it's because of that family that you talk about.
Yeah, it's been growing constantly. I've noticed we have some new faces that show up in the chats. Well, you talked about focus and how in your education you heard that word 40, 50 times a day. How do we apply that word can mean so much? How do we apply that here at SLR?
I don't think it's as much as applying it at Space Out Radio as it is, Eric, about applying it to the paranormal community. Everybody has standards, but it seems when it comes to the paranormal, there is none. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people out there would agree. It may sound a little controversial, what I am saying in regards to that. Okay? But people tuned into the alternative because they were tired of dealing with the fake news that they were seeing on a nightly basis. They were tired of reading the same old stories, the downers, everything in the newspaper or online. That's what people were getting tired of. So what we did was we literally tried to take it on a different angle. What can we do to take people's minds away from what they are living on a daily basis? People come to a radio show, whether it's music, whether it's sports talk radio, political radio, or a show like this. They come to get away from their daily life. It's an escape for them. It's like going to the bar and having a beer, which personally I think is a good thing every now and again. So we have to keep that door open. And when we have such a lack of focus inside the paranormal community, whether it's ghost hunters or ufologists, Bigfoot hunters, it's no reason, or it's not a hard reason or concept to figure out why many people out there laugh at us. They laugh at the experiencer. They laugh at the researcher. They laugh at the people who buy into all this fear-mongering crap that is out there. And, they live on the rumor. They live on the hearsay. They live off the juice of the National Enquirer type journalism that is out there, which, has all these people who are so-called quoted, but then you go look at their Twitter account or you go look online to try and find something else about that, and there's nothing to be told. I mean, and we're talking not just research. We're talking people who are broadcasting or writing stories. It's like one of the ones I just shake my head at is where you get this crowd of fearmongers out there who say the reptilian queen feeds off virgin blood, and that's why she hasn't died yet at 88. Well, my grandmother's 89, and I know she doesn't feed off of virgin blood. Maybe that she just has a lineage that lives longer. You know what I'm saying? And we're quoting all of this garbage out there that we are saying we have proof. Well, proof is not someone who has been studying these topics. Proof is someone who actually works there and sees whether it's happening or not. And as long as we are buying into all of this fear-mongering crap, we're going to be laughed at as a medium. And that's not fair to the people who are putting the time and the work in to try and make this, whether it's us, whether it's other mediums or researchers, people who are putting quality time of research in to try and build something credible. And that's what hurts with it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the lengths we have to go to when we're trying to get a story. you can spend an hour tracking down a story just to find out it's BS. But let's go back to these groups. With all the division that's within the paranormal, do you see a way to make what we're doing here at SOR, our integrity and our focus, do you see a way of trying to get that, let's say, infect the paranormal with that attitude? Maybe get some of this, fake news and just sensationalism out of it?
We could only try. But the more important part about that question is, it isn't what we do. It's what the audience does. So when you have someone like Dennis, who literally tweets out our show at least 10 to 15 times a day, and Dennis I've never talked to. I've thanked him for doing that. But he does it because he obviously feels we have an important message. Or people on Facebook who do it. Pandora, Mary, do it all the time. And I'm picking out names who I probably haven't recognized enough of, because we have our regulars who do it. And I'm very thankful for that. But it's people like, I'll give you an example, on Twitter, Canadian Joe. Okay? Literally a month and a half, 2 months ago, this guy out of nowhere starts retweeting the hell out of our show. Never met him, never talked to him. So what do? I take the time to say thanks. Well, what he does then, because him and I start a conversation, he now tells all his buddies on Twitter that he chats with on a nightly basis, to hell with the other show, you got to come hear this one. This one's pretty good. Might be worth your listening ears. And that's how it starts. So really, we can provide the product to the best that we can, but in the end, it's up to the audience to absolutely help spread that word, because they're not going to take my word for it, Eric. They're not going to take your word. They're not going to take Everett Thiemer's word or anybody involved with us, but they're going to take a fellow listener's word, because they listen to the same topics. They discuss the same topics on a nightly basis or a daily basis. And when that word starts spreading, that's the power of what we can do. I got a question here from, let me find it here. This one comes from Deb. Where did she go? It disappeared on me. There it is. She says, oh, that's not it. I missed the question, Deb. I apologize. I do apologize. I'm trying to find it here. Preacher, ask me another question, and then what I'll do is I'll find Deb's question here.
Yeah, I don't think we can overestimate in any way the value of the listenership, the people getting out there and spreading the word. But that's
absolutely.
How many shows? I mean, I know you get them and I get them. We're getting suggestions, or I want to hear this guest, or how many shows are that interactive? I think that's something we offer that the average show doesn't, is the amount of audience participation we engage in.
Absolutely. And trust me, I read every comment. I probably shouldn't, but I do. I read every comment, everybody who doesn't like a guest, who they like, what they want to talk about, what they don't. And one of the things that I need to do is probably slow down a little bit on that, because it is almost an addiction. It really is. Because if you knew me personally, you would know that one of my flaws is I'm a people pleaser. I want to please everybody. I want to make people happy. So if somebody says they're disappointed in the broadcast that we do, I take that personally, and it sucks. It really sucks. But, you have to weed out the good and the bad, and you have to realize as this continues to grow, it's not going to get any better. It just isn't. Jay Frizz, an orphan listener in our chat room at spacedoutradio.com. Thanks for giving us an opportunity, man. We hope to earn your listening ears on a nightly basis. Totally appreciate that. I found Deb's question here. She says, I hate when guests laugh at some things we believe, and that has happened on your show with many repeat guests many times. Yes, it does. It does happen. You know, and I'm going to tell you, Deb, it bothers me. It absolutely bothers me when I see one of my guests, whether they're regulars or not, but get condescending with my audience. Don't like that. And I do let them know. Just so you know. Okay? I do let them know. You know, one of the things, I do have to say this, Preacher, because one of the things that I love, whether it's on Revolution Radio or more so on Twitter, because every chat room that we have is a real different crowd. It really is. But there's a couple people at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter that, you know, they make me laugh every night. And, you know, I'm going to point them out right now. Like, Skeptic, yeah, you're probably going, who, me? What? What's he going to say about me? I got to tell you, man, you keep me on my toes every single night. You really do. And I appreciate that. Les, you're the same way. And John is there every single night. Deb, you've come into the fold. And there are so many out there. Mark, Joe, I gotta say, you guys keep me on my toes. Gilgamesh in Revolution Radio saying, who is Dave's guest? In hour number 2 and 3, Lorien Fenton is going to join us right now. Because, Gilgamesh, we have had so many different people start listening to this show recently, sometimes we just like to give them a breakdown of what we do here at Space Out Radio. So Eric Markham from the Space Out Radio, the Encounter Online, our journalism section on our website, absolutely is just asking me a few questions for this first hour, so that way you guys can learn a little bit more about what we do here. So that's all we're doing right now for the first hour. I hope you don't mind. That's just the way it is. And Gail, I know you're listening. Gail needs a big mention because she's with us every night. Captain Shirk helps me out, and Joe always has nice hair. Where's Cooper and his beard? That's what I want to know. Where's Cooper and his beard? All right, you fire away, Preacher.
Okay, like you said, you read a lot of the comments. Now, that can be dangerous in that if you take... Are you afraid you might lose direction or lose focus if you do put too much attention on the after-show comments?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and you have to draw a line. What a lot of people don't know is just because we go off air at midnight, West Coast time, or 3 a.m. Eastern time, or 6 p.m. down in Sydney, Australia, 7 a.m. in Britain, what people don't know is the show actually continues off the air. And what we end up doing is every night, or almost every night, Eric, who's the other guy here, and Everett Thiemer and I, we break down every show. We break down the comments, we break down the topic, we break down each guest. Would we bring that guest back on? Does that guest work for our audience? Do they not? And I have to tell you, that conversation can last anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours. And I still got to get up in the morning for my daytime job when my alarm goes off at 6:55 a.m. Because unfortunately, this one isn't paying the bills just yet. Hopefully soon. But as of right now, it isn't. So that lack of sleep, believe it or not, even though it's midnight for me, 3 a.m. for Eric, 2 a.m. for Everett, we know the importance to every one of you listeners, every single one of you. That conversation has to happen. It has to happen. Because if we don't break down every show, and we don't edit it ourselves on what worked, what didn't, then we're going to be like everybody else. And that's what we don't want.
Yeah, when you hear the phrase, and it gets tossed around a lot, but in this case, it really is true, folks. When you hear somebody refer to a project as a labor of love, that's very much what SOR is. I mean, it's nobody's drawing a paycheck off of this, and we're doing it regardless, because it fills a void in our own lives. I mean, Dave, you talked about having a happily boring life. If somebody walked up to you and said, hit this button and you can go back to your happily boring life, would you do it?
Yes. Yeah, I would. You know, it's weird. You know, one thing that I noticed, and I'm going to open up here for a second. I hope you don't mind. Before all this craziness started happening in my life, for me, I was making really good money at my work. I was making low six figures. Okay, I had everything I wanted. I had money in the bank. And I could treat my wife to absolutely anything that she wanted or I felt she deserved because she's kind of awesome that way. And it's weird because the more I got into this business and the more I started delving into the paranormal, the supernatural, psychic ability, UFOs, and everything like that, I started noticing a pattern. And that is, most people in this field are absolutely broke. And I can't figure out why. And I'm not putting or hedging everything on the almighty dollar, because that's not what it's about. But there is a lot of people in this field, one way or another, struggling. Whether it's financially, whether it is personally, whether they used to be extroverted but are now introverted. And I could honestly say, the more I've delved into this field, the less money I have made. As weird as that sounds. My income, and this is being blunt here, my income from before I started Spaced Out Radio to where it is now has dropped almost $50,000 annually. That's a tough pill to swallow. So, would I trade my experiences and everything to get back to where I was financially? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to be comfortable again. I would love to be able to take my family on a vacation, which I haven't been able to do the last number of years. But, do I regret everything that's happened to me? No, not at all. Do I regret starting this show? Not at all. This show has saved me. It has been a lot of fun. So that's why I continue to do it on a nightly basis and push so hard. Go big or go home, right? That's what they say. So let's just try and go big before we go home.
Yeah, that's a good motto. I gotta say though, all right, before you knew you'd been into any of this, I mean, there's that, does Bigfoot exist? Are there such things as UFO? You've got this question. Your experiences have got to be almost priceless in that you are one of those people that knows for a fact. It's not having faith for you. It's just verifying a fact. You have seen Bigfoot. You have seen the UFOs. You have seen the ETs. I mean, anybody that listens has heard of Carl. When is Carl coming back? And let's talk about that one.
You had to bring up Carl.
Well, he showed up about three different. Well, not personally shown up, but it seems like Carl's been a topic of conversation for a couple, 3 shows now. Let's tell everybody. Let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's talk about Carl.
Well, Carl, if you're brand new to the show, on April 20th of 2015. We were doing a topic on Buddha of all nights with, all of a sudden his name has just escaped me. I apologize. Harvey Kraft. Harvey Kraft was his name. And we brought Harvey on last month on the 1st because after that show, he'd never really delved into extraterrestrials, and because of that show, he actually changed his focus and direction of writing. And about 15-20 minutes in, I saw something move out my window. And my studio was right by my front door in my old house. And I thought, damn it, you know what? This is going to set my dogs off. I got one of them little runt dogs who's a Chihuahua Dachshund cross. Well, geez, a crosswind. That's 30 minutes of barking right there. So you can imagine what it's like when someone's at the door. So I'm thinking, darn it, someone's here. It's 10 o'clock. Who could it be? And I put my microphone on mute after asking a question. I swivel my chair, and there is a black set of eyes and a big gray head sitting or standing on the other side of my window watching me. And right then and there, I knew I was looking into the eyes of a gray. And if that doesn't get your blood going almost instantly, well, I darn near fell out of my chair. And trying to accomplish that show was difficult. But we had to. That's what we do. We had to do it. We've done now what? We're going on year number 3 right now. We've done what? 700-800 shows? Almost, maybe 720, 730 shows? Maybe less? Somewhere around there. But that one was one of those memories that just sticks with you. It just does. So, as time's gone on, I just figured I'd nickname him Carl. And it just stuck. So that's how Carl came along.
Yeah, and we've been told Carl wasn't supposed to have been seen. So, I think Samantha Mowat said, or was it R. Keith Andrews, one of our ET experts, said that Carl got in a wee bit of trouble for being spotted. He wasn't supposed to.
Very, 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 very good. Canadian Joe on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, he just posted a picture of a gray staring in the window. If you double the size of the eyes on the picture that you put up there, Joe, that's what Carl looked like. Eerie. Absolutely eerie. Ooh, it's giving me the shivers. Giving me the shivers just looking at that. So.
Yeah. That would be an F-bomb generating experience, absolutely. I'm afraid, if it had been my window.
Okay, Diet Joke has a question in Revolution Radio, so I'm going to ask this. Says, Dave and Eric, since Jacques Vallée, a well-respected UFO investigator, says the paranormal phenomena controls space and time, and is also supported by the human cabal that stands against us with mind-bending technology, then how can we get to the bottom of anything? Great question. And I will tell you this, what it is it's seeing through the BS and having focus and the ability to believe everything at the same time while believing nothing. You have to be able to sort through the fear-mongering. You have to be able to sort through the 15 minutes of fame that we see a lot of people trying to gain because of this. So we can look and we can say there's a black ops shadow government that controls everything. The Illuminati is real. And we can go through that. And there are a lot of people telling us that this stuff is real. But I'm going to quote something that Ian Punnett said on this show as a guest when I asked him. I asked him point blank, is the United States media, is it fraudulent? And his words were absolutely not. And this is a guy who's been there, done that, been on international talk shows, nationally syndicated talk shows, has a master's degree in journalism, knows a lot of people in radio high up. And I believe him. What we are doing too much of, in my mind, is we are taking all of our own personal fears and we're getting scared at everything now because of terrorism. Or is it terrorism? Is it a false flag? We have to be able to control our own emotions and our own thoughts before we can start changing the field. And how that starts, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, some people may call me cocky on this, but how that starts is by finding quality programming, not just because it suits your beliefs, but because it challenges your beliefs. It challenges you to see another side of things. And until we all stand up and say, we're not going to take the fear-mongering anymore, we're not going to take the BS stories anymore, we're not going to take the amateur wannabe radio hosts anymore, because, like it or not, I don't consider myself an amateur since I did this professionally, then that is the only way things are going to change. Because right now there's too many options that you can get absolutely anything that appeals to what you believe. And unfortunately, it's not about what you believe, it's not about what Eric believes or what I believe or Bill Cardwell, who sets the password every night, believes. It's about stepping back and saying, why do I not believe this? Why do I question this? Because the time we start or stop asking questions, that's where it gets dangerous. That's where we start falling for all of this false flag, false journalism, false fake news crap, fear-mongering. And none of us want to see that happen. Absolutely none of us want to see that happen. So that's why it's important for all of us to keep an open mind. Believe everybody until they prove you wrong. It's like going into a courthouse. You know, the old saying. You know, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Make sure that you are proven guilty, or the guest is proven guilty by their thoughts and their wisdom, rather than because their experience doesn't line up with yours. Lorien Fenton coming up with me and Eric Markham for hours number 2 and 3 right after this. Thanks for letting us vent in the first hour of Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back after this break.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we will have Elizabeth April joining us. We're going to talk channeling tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio. And we are just efforting to get Lorien Fenton on the air with us, so bear with us momentarily. Hey, we want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. Our other terrestrial station that we are broadcasting live on is the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us as well. We are live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Calipesian. Calipesian is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn, download our shows on iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And our website is SpacedOutRadio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Please read up on the Encounter Online, our news section, brought by Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. And you can go to Patreon.com, Patreon, Patreon.com. For as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radios. We're still got Eric Markham here with us, and now we introduce the lovely and talented and brilliant Lorien Fenton to the show. Lorien, it's been way too long. How are you, beautiful?
Dave, you're making me laugh. Oh, my God. If you only knew how untalented, unlovely, and everything that's been going on this week I feel tonight. But I got to tell you, folks, I'm a bookkeeper by day, and it is now almost April 15th. So that just tells you how frazzled, how insane, and how little sleep I've had for so long now. It'll all be over soon. I think by Sunday I might actually get some sleep, so it'll be fun. But anyhow, God, I tell you, being a bookkeeper, oh my God, even my clients laugh at me. They go, "She's a bookkeeper by day and a crazy UFO lady at night."
Yes, I get that at work too. And you know what? Recently, Lorien, I've actually, in my community, there is a very haunted museum. And I have recently, or as of November, late October, November last year, was forcefully, by a friend of mine, brought onto the committee to run the paranormal division of the museum. And so what we started doing this past weekend was we started paranormal tours that I run on a volunteer basis, where we bring in some ghost hunters, and the public pays $20 a head to have a couple hours of ghost hunting with us, so that way they can get the experience. And I got a message from one of the ladies today who attended.
Oh, okay.
Cool. And literally, she sent me pictures. She got home, and she had scratches all over her body. I'd never seen that before. And she didn't feel them. And now we're trying to figure out, because part of the group, part of my team that was helping me volunteer with that, they actually put a digital voice recorder up in one area. And not only did they catch the little girl spirit who is in the house, but they caught a cat. And there's no cat on the premises.
Okay, now that is really weird.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I don't know what else to say except for are the scratches on this lady, are they claw marks or are they hand marks?
No, they're actually claw marks.
Oh, are they little tiny kitty claw marks or are they big demon claw marks?
Oh, some of them are 2-3 inches long.
Ooh, well,
yeah.
that's not little kitty claw marks.
No,
little ghost kitties.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all. But how you been?
I don't know. I'm just listening to this going, can life get any stranger for us? I'm just thinking now, Dave's up there, he's in Canada, he's on a radio show. Next thing he knows, he's now in a museum on the weekends busting ghosts. And I mean, did you ever expect that to happen in your life? I think that's really cool.
Oh, you know what? It's funny because in the first hour, Eric Markham, who is with us online here, he helps me out behind the scenes, and sometimes he co-hosts with me like tonight. He was asking me some questions because our audience has grown exponentially since the last time you were on. And,
oh dear.
And so
that means I might have to repeat a story or two. Oh my God. Okay.
You may. But what we like to do every now and again is we actually like to reintroduce our audience to what we do around here and what we believe. So Eric was actually asking me some of those same questions that you just asked in regards to, the strangeness of absolutely everything that we do and what has happened over time. And one of the things that I stated, and I'd like to ask you this question, none of us in this field really asked for what we are going through. None of us asked for these experiences, Lorien. And I'm pretty sure that's an accurate statement to make on your end as well, because I'm sure growing up as a young lady, going through childhood, high school, off to college, I'm pretty sure you didn't expect to be dealing with the paranormal, the supernatural, UFOs, super soldiers, alien, black ops, reptilians, and everything in between.
I'm telling you, Dave, I say this so many times on my show over the years. When I was 53 years old, literally all hell broke loose. That was the year that I had that experience down in Los Angeles, and everything just went crazy. Now, it'd been my whole life. I mean, obviously, my whole life has been dealt in what I called the supernatural. I considered myself a psychic. I'd read tarot cards as a youth. I was doing psychic readings. I did a lot of this stuff, but I never really. It was not going to be me. I was an artist. That's what I've always been. That's what I've always wanted to be. I was a professional dancer. I won awards for my pottery. I'm a jeweler. I design jewelry. This is not what I expected. And I even got tricked into computers. And I got to say, thank God my first husband tricked me into using computers, because if he hadn't, I wouldn't be on the path I am now as a graphic designer, a web developer. I used to do database management. I ran 2 computer companies with the first and second husbands. I've done a lot of things in the computer industry, and thank God for that. And because of that, I am now a bookkeeper, because with our computer industry the way it is, the one thing I was certain of when all the computer things were changing rapidly in the late 90s and early 2000s, I don't know if everybody knows this, but things changed just so much after the dot-com boom around the whole computer industry, that I thought to myself, what is the one thing that will always be needed and never not be needed in the computer business? And I always looked to the chief financial officer of every corporation, and I went, bookkeeping will always be needed. It always will be there, no matter whether it's electronic or if I'm doing it by hand and writing a check. It will always be there. So I went and took classes in that. I just got through getting an IT certification. That was pretty much, in 3 years, it was completely changed. And I was like, oh, this is not working out so good. So maybe I will go back and get, a QuickBooks certification, which I did. And then lo and behold, that's what I'm doing now. But if you'd asked me, before I was 52, in 2009, when I got sick and almost died, I was managing nonprofits. I was not in this world that much. I was listening to Art Bell. That was about as close as I got to being in it, and that was it. But yeah, I would never have, if you'd asked me when I was 25, if this is where I was going to be at going on my 60th birthday, I would have said to you, you're absolutely out of your mind. That's what I would have said.
And you know what? It's one of those things, Lorien, where, going back to what Eric was asking in the first hour of me, there is so much media out there in this field now due to the IT boom, as you put it. With all of the radio shows out there, the YouTube channels, the so-called journalism that is out there, do you feel that as a radio show host yourself, and you've been doing it as well, that a long time, that there's too much? Do you feel that there is too much information floating around that is segregating these topics so seriously and so differently that it's very difficult to try and find any solutions whatsoever to the questions people have?
I absolutely agree with you. And as soon as I can get out of not doing it anymore, I'll be one less person in that mix. I can tell you that right now. This is not where I wanted to be either. If someone had told me again when I was 52 years old, you'd be on the radio, I'd tell them they're out of their mind. If they told me that I was going to have my own television show back then, I would have said, you're nuts. All this stuff has happened in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm like, what? But the bottom line is you're absolutely right. There is too much of it, in my opinion. And it's not that there's too much of it. It's that everything that these people are talking about, it's all it's not fact-based, and I don't get a whole lot of this is real. What's happening now is the experiencer in these different genres, like ghost hunting, or the person that has seen a reptilian or had a baby with them, or has been used in a program, or whatever, or a super soldier, or you name it, whatever it is. They now just come out and say, they say, oh, I was in the Army and I did this and I was taken to Mars and I was brought back and I was there, blah blah blah, and they get a cult following, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is just a story. How do we even know it's got any fact base to it at all? I mean, every story that comes out of my mouth, I experienced it. And I don't have any scientific fact to it, but I also don't have a cult following around it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I don't want one. And I don't understand how all these people are out there just anyhow. I have a hard time with all these different radio shows and this and that and then what's going on, because it's like people are just listening to all this stuff, and I wonder, why are they listening? Is it making any sense to them? I mean, how's it changing their life? How's it making them better? At least in your show, in my show, at least I know you and I and Dave Cruz and our other buddies that are actually doing this and trying to get the truth as we can best, deliver it out there. As far as I can tell, we bring on people, we let them say their thing, but we don't sit there and say, oh yeah, this is it. You guys have got to move to Yelm, Washington and join the cult, or whatever. I mean, it's like, I just don't get it. I guess I'm getting old, and I'm really tired because I just got through doing a 2-hour show, and between that and the bookkeeping I've been doing this week, I'm kind of like going, yeah, you're right. Maybe neither one of us should be doing a show.
Well,
there's just too much of it out there. I don't know.
Well, one of the things that intrigues me about it, and I said this in the last hour when we were asked a question, the question was something along the lines of, what can we do to try and find or to get the bottom of anything? And this was asked out of the Revolution Radio chat room by Diet Joke, and I'm going to bring that up again. But the way I answered it may be different than the way a lot of people answered it. The problem that I see is we have too many people who are just trying to find radio shows or television shows that suit what their common belief is. Nobody is searching for an answer anymore. So everybody has to take a step back and think that just because they believe something doesn't mean that it's yes or no, or it's right or wrong. How would you compartmentalize your thoughts on that? Because with the plethora of radio shows out there, we definitely have a show for everyone's opinion, and we're so scatterbrained on the topics that we're not solving any of these mysteries anymore. And do you think it's still possible to do that?
No, I don't. I think it's become so convoluted out there that no one's giving you the answers anymore. And, and that's where you and I have a real problem, Dave, because, as we bring the guests on, we have to ask ourselves every time we bring a guest on, is this guy going to give us a lot of fluff? Is he going to give us some answers? Is it going to be true? Or am I just going to let him come on and tell his whole thing and then go, well, everybody make up your own mind, which we do a lot. We don't really have a choice. When you bring on somebody like I'm going to use him as an example because he is a friend, and I appreciate his story very, very much, and I've even had him speak at my conferences, and that's Andy Bashago. We bring him on. He talks about his time travel experiences. He's done his thing, blah, blah. But how do we know any of it's really true? And then it comes down to the whole point that I tell everybody on my show all the time is, if I've learned nothing in the last 5 or 6 years that I've been doing this, 7 years now, whatever it is, full bore, full tilt every day, is that mind control is a very complex and very pervasive problem in our country nowadays. And it goes way beyond the super soldiers, and it goes way beyond the UFO people, and it goes way beyond the conspiracy people, the targeted individuals, you name it, it goes on and on. I'm beginning to think there are more programs in place through DARPA and places like that that are actually running the whole UFO community, the whole conspiracy community, the whole bit, and they are giving us people like Andy, not through any fault of his own. He absolutely is telling us the truth as he knows it, but maybe there's some kind of program in place that none of us are very much aware about where they can actually infiltrate our consciousness and get people to do things that they would never do or believe things that are real that aren't real in our base reality, okay, that they're going to work, driving your car reality, that they want us to believe, and that they may create tons of people out there that are, maybe being used by these gray aliens, that maybe there's only 3 on the whole planet, that they're making everybody think, 2 or 3 million people think they're being abducted every night, through some type of consciousness program. I mean, I think it goes much deeper than we're willing to even look at, because we like this. We like the story. We like the fact that Andy can time travel to Lincoln. We like the fact that we're being taken on a ship and we're going to have, little baby hybrids. And we like, we like being special in that way. And I get it. We're just human. But I think it goes so much deeper than that. I think there's something going on, and it may even have to do with religion and science, for all I know. It may even be this battle for our souls that people talk about that is really running the show here, and it's so much darker and deeper than we can even imagine. Anyhow, that's a very convoluted answer to your question, but it's kind of where I'm heading after all these years of digging into this.
Hey, Lorien, this is Eric. I've often wondered, you see these people walking around constantly glued to their cell phones. Do you think that maybe this mind control or this programming is being propagated, or, is it coming from that?
Oh, absolutely. And the television and even the radio the signals that we're on right now, the internet signals, all of this stuff is all very much involved in it. And trust me, you guys, I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart, from what I have learned in the last 7 years from different scientists and different people. And one of them is Robert Duncan. You guys should really read his books. And my good friend Solaris Blue Raven, you should read her books. I'm telling you, folks, there's so much more going on than we're aware of. And not that, and I'm going to just go off on a little tangent here. Solaris and Robert both believe there are alien factions. They also believe in God. They also believe in a lot of things, but they also know. And this is kind of like a knowing for them, since they were part of these programs from very different angles. Solaris as a control, and Robert as a programmer for these computer AI interfaces that are going on through DARPA and other organizations. The problem we've got is every type of electronic device that you are dealing with, your phone, your cell phone, your landline, your wireless router, your computer system. I mean, I'm looking around my room and I've got 15 devices probably within arm's reach that could control me if they wanted to. And even the car, computer chips, I mean, everything is controllable by something else. And that's what people fail to recognize. And every time you sit on your cell phone and you tap allow to any program or app that's on your phone, you're allowing it to access you completely. I don't know if people realize that. They probably do, because anybody's listening to this show is smart enough to know that. But most people don't know that. And they would not know that by tapping allow, you're giving all these people who write these programs every right to turn on the camera and look right back at you whenever they feel like it, or listen to your conversation, or do whatever they want. And right now on Skype alone, we're being monitored by God knows how many agencies. Anyhow, I digress from the question. Eric, you're absolutely right. Everything around us is designed, and it was designed a long time ago. That's the other part of this equation that people are so unaware of. I used to say it on my show, and Dave is probably sick of hearing this, but I used to close my show back in the early days with this comment: evil is more organized than you can ever imagine. And when I say that, I'm saying they plan stuff out 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years in advance, because they know the future. I know I sound like a crazy person when I say that, but I absolutely believe it, folks. I would not have said that 10 years ago. I wouldn't even thought about it 10 years ago. I wouldn't even known about it 10 years ago. But I've talked to way too many people that are involved in these projects and these different things and the computer industry and what have you. And they say, you just take what we know as computer programmers and you take it and you weaponize it. And then you've got to start thinking 500 years in advance, because you've got to know where you're going with this stuff. You've got to imagine where you're going to take it. And these guys in the 80s were imagining things that'll curl your toenails now. And they have the ability to do things that I can't even talk about on this show, that I believe, but I have no proof. So I can't sit here, and I'm not going to be the one saying, oh, they can do this and they can do that and what have you. All I can say is, after what I've seen in 7 years of being seriously involved in this whole mind control stuff, I'm telling you folks, it's the scariest place I've ever been in my entire life. I'm also ready to, have my goats and get a farm. Ready for me to move in, Dave?
I got the property. I do. I have enough room for you. I have a spare bedroom. My daughter's going to university in the fall, so I now have an open bedroom. But you mentioned the word proof. And as we kind of focus on people today, whether they're skeptic, whether they're believers, whether they're experiencers, or just the five senses type of people that an alien could stand right in front of them and they'll say, this is a hoax, this isn't real. People want proof. With with CGI, with disinformationalists out there, with everybody having an opinion, with nobody researching, with people claiming that their own personal opinion is in fact scientific proof, which it's not, with people telling experiencers that their experience is no longer relevant to the investigation of what we are trying to solve. How do we get proof? How do we get proof anymore?
I know, and that's a huge problem. Back in the day of, do you remember the Warrens, who used to do a lot of the paranormal investigations back on the East Coast? They've made a lot of movies about them. I can't remember their names. I can see their faces as I'm sitting here. But anyhow, they used to do these amazing paranormal investigations. And I'm going to use them as an example for you, Dave, because it's very important people understand what's happened. It used to be, if you were doing paranormal investigations, if you were doing ufology investigations, you were very scientific about how you went about it. And that is the one good thing about MUFON. On a side note, they still do it that way. They still do regular scientific investigations of these phenomena that happen to people. And it's probably a good thing that they are, because like Jan Harzen once told me, he goes, I can't do the woo-woo stuff, because then we wouldn't be MUFON anymore. And it made total sense to me, and I get it. They're they're the only one left standing from NICAP and everybody else. And they still do the solid, make the phone call, fill out the form, look for radiation, test the soil. They do the regular old scientific type of investigation. And I gotta hand it to them. They stuck with it, and they're still going strong. They've been around since 1969, and nobody else is left standing. So they must be doing something right. So getting back to what you're saying about proof. In 69, MUFON was doing it that way. The Warrens were always doing as much scientific research into paranormal phenomena as they could. There were researchers back in the 80s that were building instrumentation to measure paranormal instances and anomalies and things that were happening. Now we've got digital recorders that can get the voice to whatever you called it. I can't remember. I'm so tired. I'm sorry, Dave. But where you get the voice from the ghost in real time and play it back.
EVP.
Thank you. EVP. God, it was just so gone out of my head there. Anyhow, so you get the EVPs, and there are ways to do things scientifically that can help us understand that there are parallel dimensions. There are different ways to see things. There are maybe different frequencies and fields around us on a natural, scientific, earthbound basis. Then there's also people like the guy I interviewed tonight, Marshall Barnes, who thinks, that he can conquer time and time travel. And he's going to do it through different means and what have you, but he's doing it from a very scientific way of doing it. And then, you've got that going on. So thank God all those people are doing things from a scientific standpoint. But it's not happening as much anymore. And that's my whole point. Marshall Barnes may be one of the last people out there actually trying to do stuff from scientific point of view as compared to this cult following that maybe Andy's got and Corey Good. And, I can throw out a bunch of names, but I'm not going to. But you guys get my drift. They're all the people out there that are telling these fantastic tales. And people just go, oh, it's true. And I just go, what do you mean, oh, it's true? I mean, I literally start going nuts when I hear, oh, yeah, everything he's saying is true. And I'm like, how do you know it's true? How do you know it's not all in his mind? And if it's in his mind, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I mean, any more than I can say to Barbara Lamb, who is the sweetest, most honest, most amazing hypnotherapist on the West Coast, probably in the whole United States. She's been dealing with people who have had UFO and alien contact for 30 or 40 years now, at least a quarter of a century, I know. And she's one of the top people in the United States, and she's had encounters with a reptilian. Okay? And I absolutely believe her story. But I don't have any proof. All I have is knowing Barbara, knowing she doesn't lie, knowing she would never lie to anybody, and knowing that if she tells it, it absolutely happened to her the way she believes it happened. Okay? That's all I've got. But I don't know Corey Good. I don't know him like that. I don't know if his story's even true. And for 300 people to walk into a room and say, "Oh, this guy's telling the truth," and I'm like, "What? How do you even know? You don't even know this guy." I mean, I know Barbara Lamb. I sat with her for days at a conference. I mean, I literally had to get to know her before I would be, hook, line, and sinker her story into my mind. And I don't understand how people can sit there and just believe all this stuff and point blank look at me 30 seconds after they walk in a room, hear a guy talking, go, oh, isn't he great? He's telling us everything we need to know. And, all that. I'm just like, what? What happened to discernment? What happened to finding out for yourself? What happened to you, maybe being the super soldier and going out in space? Why didn't you talk to, I mean, it's like, what? I'm sorry. I'm on a rant tonight because I'm just so beautiful. Frustrated. I'm frustrated.
You go. Eric, I want to get one question in before you hop in, Eric, because I know you have a question for Lorien. Lorien, where does the gullibility factor come into play? Why are people so quick to jump on board?
Well, as I was saying earlier, and God bless them, Dave, I know I'm on a rant tonight. I know I'm just being a little Miss Contrary over here and just kind of going back and forth. But the reality is people are so desperate for anything in their life to make sense that they will, if they want to believe it, they're going to believe it. And hey, I have no fault with that. I even bring these people on my radio show too. I mean, I get it. What I want them to do is I want them to just say, hey, look, that's a fascinating story and it could be true. And I'm going to put it into my, memory banks and I'm going to hold on to that story and I'm going to nurse it into my consciousness and I'm going to take care of it. And I'm not going to poo-poo it. I'm not going to say it can't be true. I'm not going to go that route, but I'm just going to hold on to it and let it sit there until the next person comes along that has a story. And then you're going to listen to that story and you're going to say, that's interesting. Did so-and-so say that, 3 years ago in his story? And then, it's 15 years later and you've got 50 of these stories. And then you're finally saying, that's so interesting. 25 of my 50 stories have the same kind of timeline going on with them or same scenario or something is all the similar about all these. And so, hey, maybe those guys are telling the truth, but never say in the first 30 seconds you hear somebody talk, oh my God, this guy's telling the truth and everything's, great. And I got to follow him around and I got to support him and I got to do all this stuff. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. And I'm going to tell you guys a quick little story. I had a friend who was following one of these guys around, and I'm not going to go into great detail here, but the bottom line is he was doing a bunch of work for him. He was doing things for him and websites and you name it, this and that. And then he went to see him at one of the other events he was at, like 6 months after he had been in contact with him and was doing all this work for him. And he shows up, and the guy basically just said, "Oh, you're that guy doing all the work for me for free. Oh, that's wonderful." And just never talked to him the whole weekend. And just used him like treated him like a dog, basically, that he's doing all of his grunt work for him, and, he was just going to be there no matter what. And this friend, and I had warned him, I had said, I don't know if it's such a good idea to be helping this guy out, blah, blah. And I said, if he really needs it, cool, I'm glad you're doing it. But, just be careful, because some people aren't what they seem to be. And sure enough, he came back from this event and he said to me, he goes, you were so right. He was just using me and, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I felt really bad for this guy because he really cared about this person. He really cared about his story. He wanted to help him. He wanted to get his story out there. He's doing things for him that he could have been charging him money for, the whole bit. And this guy just turned on him like, he was a nobody. And so this is just one example, you guys. I've got a whole bunch more stories like that. All I'm saying is just be really discerning. Don't be gullible. Be discerning about what's going on out there, what people are telling you. And, don't jump on the bandwagon so quick that you're like, running their organization for them. Give it some time. Get to know the person. Find out what they're doing, if they have a job. That would be, I think that's my new thing, Dave. Find out if this person's got a job. Because, if they've got a job, then maybe they're halfway normal. I'm starting to think that I cannot communicate with anybody who just sits home all day doing nothing but being part of the UFO community or part of the super soldier community or what have you. They've got to have a job now before I'll even talk to them. That's terrible.
Not just a job, not just a job, but I want a credit report. I want to see what your beacon score is. Or your FICO score. I want to see where it's standing, because if it's anywhere below 500, I don't think we should be talking.
Well, I don't mean to be that bad.
I know exactly where you're going with that, because people are desperate to find these answers out, Lorien. They want the answers so bad. They want disclosure. They want to have an experience with aliens or Bigfoot or ghosts. They want to see that black triangle in the sky, just so they can say,
really, why? I mean, see, this is where I start laughing, because I'm like, I never saw anything for 40 years, folks. Not a darn thing. I mean, I saw Ghost. I guess I did see a lot of things. I saw Ghost. I've been in some amazing situations. I think I've kind of time traveled a bit. I've been through some really amazing stuff, but I didn't see my first UFO, as you know, Dave, until 11/1 of 14. I mean, my real first definable, there's a big black triangle in the sky going to fall on my head, oh God, moment, right? And I never asked for it. I never cared. I never even wanted it. So I guess I'm very different than everybody, and I guess this may be why, and I'm sure you're the same way as me. It's like, we didn't ever say, oh, I want to see all this. We never cared about it. I mean, it's not something that came up on my radar as my end all and be all for life. I wanted to be a nun when I was 5. So the last thing on my mind was like, oh yeah, I want the aliens to come and get me, or anything like that. So, so I guess when you say that, I just kind of go, that's really weird to me that anybody would want that, because I don't know. It's never brought me fame, fortune, or anything exciting. How about you, Dave?
Well, it's funny, because in hour number 1, Eric asked me point blank, he goes, would you go back to your happily boring life if you could?
Oh, God, in a heartbeat.
And I said, absolutely. And it led to another point that I wanted to make, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. Before all of this started in my life, Lorien, I was making a very good living.
Yep.
I was making low 6 figures. I had money in the bank. I had holidays planned. I could afford anything that I wanted within reason, of course. I wasn't going out to buy a Ferrari or a motorhome or something along those lines. But you know what? My wife and I had a comfortable nest egg going. We, if we wanted something, we went and got it. And I found that the more intense I got into this and learning this, my income dropped. And then I started noticing everyone around this field, one way or another, is struggling financially.
That's right.
Why do you think almost everybody in this field is struggling to make a living, and yet they will not give up the passion, they will not give up the desire to find out what's going on?
I don't know. I've had a theory about it, Dave. My theory is that our frequencies change quite a bit on a very physical level when we understand what's going on, when we've been touched by otherworldly entities, when we've, seen them. I think something happens to us on a sheer physical level that, and I hate to say this, it sounds really, really dumb actually, but what I'm trying to say is you can't be around people that actually go out and their whole job in life is to make money, because they vibrate at such a different frequency than somebody who's seeking the truth. And a six-figure income takes a whole different type of frequency management of your mind and the people around you to make that happen. It's kind of like people talk about manifesting stuff. You can't manifest stuff really out of evil. You can if you're a satanic ritual abuse person and you do that as a ritual to create evil. Yeah, that can be done. But if you're a good person and you're seeking God and the truth and love and light and that whole bit, which I think most of the people in this community are, you can't resonate with people that are making just tons of money because they just have a different vibration, and you can only last so long being around those kind of people. And then you just go, oh my God, this is, I can't live like this. It's making me sick. Literally it'll make people sick. I know because I walk into Salesforce.com or any of the places I could get a contract with right now, and I can't even be in the building anymore. I can't be around corporate type environments. I can't be around people who all they do is they backstab and cut throat and try to make more money at this and that, and they're beating the competition and they're this and they're that. It's a whole different frequency than what I live now. I do my bookkeeping for the clients I choose. The clients I choose are very good people. They may not believe in what I believe in, but they're still super, super good people doing good works. Like, one of the ladies I work for helps with the orphanage in India all the time. And I mean, these are good people I work for. I wouldn't trade them for the world. They're amazing people. And I picked them. They found me. We all found each other because I'm vibrating at a different frequency now. And they pay me for my expertise at what I do. And it's a very different lifestyle than I led before when I was running all these nonprofits for, I can't even mention their names on air. But long story short, it was a very competitive world back then. And I was dealing with corporate people at the time. And I was making a good living too. I mean, I understand completely what you're saying. And it's very different now for me, and I believe that everybody else has that happen. But here's the kicker, Dave. You and I have both found things that we can do that are still within our frequency handling. You've got a boss, you've got this, you've got that, but it's only like one or two guys, and, it's a smaller business. You're not stuck in a big building that just is vibrating evil. Evil money. I can't, and that's my theory on it. I hope that made sense.
No, absolutely. It makes a ton of sense. It's just absolutely odd to me that we have so many brilliant people in this field, and everybody knows who the names are. But even the people who are appearing on all of these documentaries, on television shows, on interviews, they're broke too.
They have no money. I know. Most of them don't even have a job too, which is really sad, because their job is to be on these shows and sell their books and do whatever they're doing. And I get that, but how do you keep yourself on the top of the fish fry? I always say, how do you get to be the guy in the frying pan all the time? You've got to do that in order to make a living. So, I told myself a long time ago, first, number one, I don't want anybody following me. Second, I don't want to make my life be about books and movies and this and that. I don't care about all that. If people want to hear me, then they'll hear me. If they don't, they don't. I don't need all that. I'm not that person that has to be on stage at every conference. It doesn't make any sense to me why you'd want to be that. But there are those out there in our community who do, and I just knew right away that I had better. I always heard this echoing in the back of my head: don't give up your day job. Mm-hmm. No matter what it was, I've always held down a job during everything I've ever done in my entire life. When I was a professional dancer, I had a part-time job all the time. People were amazed that I would, work as a professional dancer and have a part-time job during the week. Because most of us were performing on weekends. We did travel frequently with this dance company. But the point was, nobody else in the company had a job but me. Because I always felt that what if I fell next week and broke my leg? I would be out of work completely, But if I've got something to, rely back on, no matter what it was, I'd have a job, and I'd be able to survive, I'd be able to pay my rent, And I've never given that up. And I don't understand people who don't always think that way. But hey, that's just me, I push myself very hard. And I think you do too.
Oh, I push myself way too hard. Do you think then it is a matter of people in this field, the brilliance, as smart as the people are in this field, that they're willing to give away all of this information? Or do you feel that maybe they just don't know the direction on how to capitalize on their knowledge? Like I know with Spaced Out Radio here, okay, we're now on 2 different terrestrial radio stations. That's where we wanted to be. We're starting to hit our goal. We're hoping to add more. But behind this show, there's a whole budding business plan together to try and take this to a level, I'm not going to say coast-to-coast level, but to a level of trying to make this a career. And if it fails, it fails. I still have my daytime job, right?
Right.
But do you think it's a lack of knowledge on how to exploit yourself?
Yeah, I think most of these people, now I will just say for me, folks, I know how to exploit myself very well. And if I had the time and I had an assistant, I would be all over the internet and I could go out there and people would see me on Facebook all the time and I'd be everywhere all the time. But I can't afford an assistant right now. And I'm not sure I want to be that person that's all over everything. And so that, truly that's why I am not out there and people don't know who I am. And I'll give you a funny example of it, Dave. A woman was going to have me speak at her conference. And then some things transpired. And then she calls me up and she goes, I got to thinking about it. I'm not going to have you speak at my conference. And I said, why? And she goes, because I don't know who you are. And I started laughing. I said, oh, yeah. The reason you don't know who I am is because I haven't written 50 books on it. And I don't do this and I don't do that. I'm not on Facebook and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, yeah, you were told to me that I had to have you speak by this guy and he's no longer around. And I'm not going to have you speak. And instead of sitting there arguing with this woman about the whole thing, I finally thought, you know what? I can try to convince her that she needs me at her conference because I have something very powerful to say. But if she doesn't get it, then I'm not even going to be able to do it, because what she said to me in the same breath was, I need named people to sell tickets at the door. And I thought, yep, that's the problem. See, all these people who've written all these books who have never seen a super soldier, who have never seen a UFO, who have never been near an alien, who have never blah, 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 and who tell you all the time that other people in the community are not what they say they are. I mean, I could go down the laundry list of stuff, guys. But the bottom line is the one person telling what I consider the truth as I know it that can help change lives in this whole business, they don't want, because they don't know who I am, right? So I kind of laughed and I thanked her for her time and I went on my merry way. But that's the issue. I'm not out there. I don't care and I don't want to be. And what was the question?
No, you're absolutely right. I'm actually speaking at 2 conferences this year.
Good.
In a month from now, I will be speaking in Provincetown, Massachusetts, at their first annual one, and I will be speaking on the topic of paranormal media. The good,
wonderful.
The good, the bad, and advice to start a very good radio show. And then I will be doing the same topic down in Washington State in September. And, it's one of those things where you have to get your name out there somehow, and you got to go to these conferences. But on the flip side, nobody wants anybody who doesn't, have that
that
book
they don't
out.
know who you are. Exactly. I know. I crack up. I think and hey, guess what? I'm a conference producer. That's why I'm laughing about this whole thing, because my criteria for being at my conference is pretty much that you're a has-been in the community and that you had some real amazing experiences. That's number 1. And number 2, that no one knows who you are. That's how I bring people in, because I figure if I bring the same old people all the time, then what am I doing? I'm being the same as everybody else. And so my conferences, as you probably heard from Samantha and everybody else, are really quite the extraordinary events, because there's not the same old people, and I got to say, Dave, I'm only patting myself on the back because I very seldom do, but I'm going to do it live on your show. People were coming up to me after people presented at my conference with tears in their eyes, literally with tears in their eyes, grabbing my hands and saying to me and making me cry, which I don't do often. They started me crying too. They were saying, Lorien, thank you. This is the most powerful conference I've ever been to in my entire life. I've learned more in this weekend than I have in 20 years of going to conferences. You have opened my eyes to all new possibilities. These are the things they were saying to me. And, it was remarkable. I had truly one of the best conferences I've ever had a couple weeks ago at UFO Con. So I'm very pleased with how it all turned out and really happy. And yeah, I mean, there were a lot of crazy things going on, but in spite of it all, people were learning stuff that they'd never heard about before. And they were just thrilled. So that's what I'm happy about. So yeah. So I've got that all going on for me too. At least I'm living my truth in that. I'm living La Vida Loco at my conferences. Yeah, anyhow, what was the question again, Dave?
we got about 4 minutes before we got to go to break here. So I'm going to let Eric ask a question here.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, Lorien, you mentioned how in the early days of the Warrens and some of the early researchers, how scientific they were. Do you think bringing these, what you called the has-beens, is actually bringing people back to that?
I hope so, because one of the people for example, that I brought back to the fray was David Adair, and ours was the first conference that he was back at for 16 years off of the circuit, as he says. And I had called him a while back. His wife had recently died, and he was in a bad way about the whole thing. And I said, you've got to start coming back out again. And he agreed. And, he just thought it would be great to get back out there and start talking to people. And then he went on Coast, I think, and a couple others and started making a comeback. And I said, would you agree to be at my conference as the first one out of the gate? And he said, yes, I would, because I want to come back at a place where people get to see me with other people that aren't as well known, because he goes, I don't resonate with those people. They have not lived what I've lived. They don't understand what I've gone through. And a lot of the people from the old days have been through such amazing things that the young people don't know who they are. Even some of the people in the UFO community didn't have any idea who David Adair was. And so we got to bring his story back to light. And your question about bringing back the old ways of research and, that type of thing. Yes, of course. I hope that that's what we're doing. I hope that by sitting through a presentation by somebody who's crawled on the giant, double semi-wide, UFO power supply from, back in 1970 something when he did it, 78, 79, that they understand that this is something that transcends time. It's not that, I saw a UFO 5 years ago, or this happened, yesterday, or this is what's going on now. This has been a problem for the American public since the time of, George Adamski back in the 50s, when they were all, bringing in the Space Brothers. I mean, this has been going on forever, and it's been covered up forever. It's been covered up since the 30s, the 20s. And it really got covered up back in the late 40s and early 50s when, Keith Arnold saw his first flying saucer, supposedly. And, all that started happening. The government has been involved in this since the beginning, and it's time we start bringing back the people who experienced it all. We're shut up by the men in black. We're not shut up by the men in black. We're tortured. We're taken to dumb bases. Who knows? A lot of these people won't even come back out again because they're so afraid. I mean, back in the day, they did some really horrible stuff to people, and that's another thing people don't understand. David Adair was not treated so good after he decided to blow up his rockets and not help the government. I mean, it gets really crazy, and people forget that. So I guess that's what I'm telling you, Eric, is I'm bringing back some of the old people because I think it's time for people to look at what they went through with fresh eyes and understand that this is not a game we're playing. This is a very important piece of history and a very important piece to the UFO community to bring back these people and have them talk about their experiences so we understand what's going on.
All right, I'm going to get you guys to hold on right there. Eric Markham joins us tonight from the SOR. What is our new section called? The Encounter Online. We changed it from the SOR. So I'm still getting used to the new name. The Encounter Online. Lorien Fenton is also with us. And I love Lorien. Every time I get her on the air, it just makes me giddy and makes me smile. I do have to say that. During the break, I do want you to check out our website, spacedoutradio.com. Read up on the Encounter Online. Check out our music man, Bumblefoot, as he rocks us in and out of every single show. You can also become an SOR space traveler as well for just $5 a month. Chat away, my friends, because that's what we're doing. Also, head on over to patreon.com. For $1 a month, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radios. We want to say hello to everyone on our terrestrial stations, WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, and in New Orleans on 107.7 FM, the United Public Radio Network. Good to have you all with us tonight. It's been a fun show so far. We got 1 hour to go with this crazy crew, and we'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us tonight. Tomorrow night on the program, Elizabeth April will join us. We're going to discuss channeling, what it's like, how to do it. Can we all do it? We'll find out tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in our listeners on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, the home of The Walking Dead. We also want to welcome in everyone on the United Public Radio Network and over 160 countries strong. We love being live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We're live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Calipesian. Calipesian is your password, so make sure you use it wisely. I don't know what it means, but Calipesian is your password. Calipesian. Calipesian is spelled Calipygian. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Thank you, Lorien. I appreciate that. You know,
I heard it the first hour, and I was like, how in the heck are they supposed to even spell that correctly to put it in there?
I'll tell you, though, that would be a good double or triple word score in Scrabble. But Bill's,
it would, wouldn't it?
It would. Bill sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio, so make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers. Now, we do want to tell you, we're all over social media during this show, so you can use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio or add me at Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. You can also give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn, download this show and others on iTunes. We're on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have the encounter online, or you can head on over to patreon.com. That's Patreon.com. And join us and become a patron of Space Out Radio for as low as $1 a month. Lorien Fenton and Eric Markham are with me tonight. We're going the distance here on Spaced Out Radio. My crew, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Hi, I'm here.
Absolutely.
I haven't fallen asleep yet. That's a good thing. Oh, my God. Hey, Dave?
Yes?
What are we talking about this hour? Because I want to talk about the JFK birthday conference I'm putting on coming up.
Well, we're going to get into conferences with you momentarily. But I got
to... darn. Okay, I can't do it yet. Okay, no. Shameless plug, not allowed yet.
All right.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. Well, don't worry. Don't worry. I always have time for your conferences, even though you haven't invited me to speak yet.
Oh, well, I didn't even know you spoke. I wanted you to come down and be my voice of the radio down there. And, you know, Dave Cruz did a great job. Did you hear him?
I did not hear. I didn't even know he was involved.
He was totally involved. I set him up in the lobby. He got to interview every speaker. He got to interview George Norrie.
Good for him.
We had a blast. You should have been there.
Dave is a great guy. Great guy. And, you know, he's pushing hard to try and make a name for himself there, too. And I got a lot of respect for Davey. I got a question for you from Twitter at hashtag Space Out Radio. This comes from Muji Boy. And he is asking, Lorien, tell us about your paranormal beliefs, which you don't want to talk about because you have no evidence for.
I love this guy. He's right on. Is it Moji Boy? Well, I absolutely believe in the paranormal. I have lived the paranormal. I spent my whole life doing it. Or living it. I mean, whatever it is that we can talk about here. And the thing is, I think we need more proof. We need more evidence. And I think that day's coming soon, folks. I'm going to go off on a little tangent about the question, but I will get back to what's happened to me. I really believe that it's time. It's time that we redefine the experiencer onto, the different levels of experiencers. That's the book I'm writing right now. Shameless plug. I had to throw that in. About how people are experiencing things and how they are telling other people about it, and how much of it you should believe and how much you shouldn't, and how to even deal with the whole experience, because we're way beyond what I call the J. Allen Hynek, first encounter, second encounter, third encounter, whatever. That doesn't tell me squat anymore, because there's so much going on. We live in a completely different world than that was defined in the 70s. It's a completely different world now. We have VR, we have 4D, we have everything going on around us that can make us believe what they want us to believe. Let's just put that in quotes. And so, in answer to your question, I have lived a very solid, what I call very solid, concrete paranormal experiences. And I don't have any proof of them, but I can tell you that I didn't experience many of them alone. So I am one of the few people I know that actually has a corroborating witness, as they say. And that is very hard to find anymore with the people that are out there now. I mean, we're talking about Andy Bishago doesn't have a twin flame partner that went with him on all these journeys. And Corey Good doesn't have anybody standing right there saying, I did it with them. And, I have the scars to prove it. And I can say that in a good 50 to 75% of my personal paranormal experiences, I had a witness to what I was experiencing, which is very uncommon. I'm starting to find out because I'm doing research into that for my book. And so I will tell you this, in answer to your question, I had several experiences when I was younger, but there's one in particular that I will cite right now, and that is the experience of seeing my dead boyfriend in, oh God, every time I think about him, I get a little emotional. So, okay, excuse me. It's it's been over 25 or 30 years now, and I still get emotional talking about it. But so I had a boyfriend who died. He committed suicide, and he was 20 years older than I was. I was madly in love with this dude, and it's a very great romance. As a matter of fact, it could be a book into itself. How amazing, how many paranormal experiences we had together. And then when he died, I had two of the biggest ones I've ever had in my entire life. The first one was the night he died. And this happened 2 weeks after he died. I went down to his ex-wife's home and their two children, who were teenagers at the time. And we were having a memorial service for him there, and the family invited me to be part of it because I was, I knew them all. And long story short, I'm in the bedroom with the daughter, and I'm on the floor in a sleeping bag, and she's in her bed right next to me, and we both have our heads facing the same direction. And in the middle of the night, I wake up, and I thought I was asleep. I thought I was dreaming. What I saw was my boyfriend, Bob, at the foot of my bed, or foot of the sleeping bag, and he's holding a painting, and he's saying to me, and I could hear it clearly in my head, do your art, do your art. Because during that time, and I'll just be really honest with everybody, I was very depressed, and I was very suicidal at that time, because I'd lost him, and I really was not doing too well. And so I know why he was saying that. I know why he was holding the painting, because he was a painter, and that was his way of showing it to me. My chosen profession at that time in the arts was dance. And so he wasn't dancing, he was just holding a painting, and I kept hearing, do your art, do your art. While I'm laying there thinking I'm dreaming, I realize my eyes are open. Okay. I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing him. He's standing right there. And it's pitch black, but I can see him as plain as day. So obviously he must have been glowing some kind of light, because I could see him like he was just standing there. And in the dark, though. I mean, it wasn't like he was glowing bright. It was just that he was standing there in the dark, and I could see him, and I could hear him in my head. At the same time I'm having this experience, his daughter sits up in bed. She's looking in the same direction I'm looking. I don't look at her, but I see her out of the corner of my eye, sit up, stare in that direction. About the time he fades out and disappears on me, she lays down and goes back to sleep, and so do I. The next morning, we're sitting at the breakfast table, and I'm kind of like, oh, should I say anything? And she comes bounding into the room and says, Mom, I saw Dad last night. And I go, oh, really? She goes, yeah, I saw him. He was standing at the foot of your sleeping bag. And he said, you're going to have the most amazing life. You're going to have a baby in a few years. You're going to be married. You're going to have a son. I'm so proud of you. And he disappeared. And I said, well, was he holding a painting? And she goes, no, he wasn't, but I could hear it all in my head. And I'm like, oh my God. So at the same time she's having the experience, she sees him as plain as day, just like I did, wearing the same clothes I saw him wearing, because I asked her about it. So we both saw the same apparition. My apparition's holding a painting. Hers is not. He's talking to her in her head about the child she's going to have and the husband she's going to marry, and he's proud of her. And then at the same time he's telling me I need to do my art. I've got to do my art because that's my destiny, or something to that effect. And I'm like going, this is unbelievable. So we both had a mutual sighting together, and so I have a witness to the same thing I experienced. Now, is that proof? I don't know if it's proof. I can't even tell you guys if it's proof, but it's two people having the same experience at the same time. So to me, that's a little more solid and provable than somebody who says, I went to Mars and I was born again 20 years later in a baby's body. You know, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but that's my take on it. So there you go. Okay. Did that answer your question, Dave?
Well, it was more, yes, I believe it would have. And the experience, I mean, you have to be lucky to have that experience with witnesses. Sure, we hear the groups, you know, where they are out, you know, on a stroll, maybe a group walk or a picnic, and something happens in the forest or something happens in the sky where a lot of people see it at night. You know, but for the most part, most people have never had an eyewitness with them. And you feel for those people because they just want someone to believe what is going on in their life. They really do. And the problem is they have no proof besides their word. And I feel sorry for people like that because
Me too.
They're pulling their hair out because all they want is someone to appreciate what they have done and what they have accomplished with their experience and what they have learned. And yet people rarely will give them the time of day for it.
I know. It's really sad. And, you know, and this brings me to another few of my other experiences. I've always had at least, you know, one person with me. And I got to say, even my, 11/1/14 experience with the big black triangle, I had not my best friend, but a very good friend of mine in my UFO group, Diane, witness it with me. So I'm one of these lucky, crazy people that has had somebody almost with me every time I've had a really wild experience. And I could look at them and I could say, did you see that? You know? And they're like, yeah, I did. And you're like, oh my God. And it takes on another whole dimension when it's not just you seeing it. You know what I mean? It becomes much more real at that point. And I got to knock on wood, Dave, because tell you what, God is listening to me, because I told him, I said, don't ever give me stuff that's all just me seeing it. Because if you do, I'm never going to believe it. I'm a real doubting Thomas. I could have, like, the whole world could, you know, fall in on me and aliens could be crashing down in the sky. And if I'm the only one experiencing it, I'll just pretend it's not happening. Right? And if the whole neighborhood's running out going, do you see that? Then I'm going to get freaked out. Then I'll actually respond to it, you know? I am such a doubting Thomas, man. I'm so glad he's given me these experiences with others, because I don't have very good trust of my own imagination, I guess, you know?
Let's turn over to conferences here for a second, because you're someone who puts on a lot of...
I caught you. Dead air. I caught you.
I was actually
Sorry.
I was coughing. I was coughing.
Were you?
I was.
Sorry. I'm laughing, folks, because, you know, the worst thing that could ever happen is when your guest just suddenly shuts up and you're like going, oh my God, I got to say something quick, and you're on mute, and, you know, the whole bit.
You know, the weather up here, I do have to admit this, the weather up here is very dry. And we're very dry. And we're probably just over 3/4 of a mile above sea level up here. So the one thing I've learned at this time of year is we change seasons from winter into spring. And it's just getting that way now, even though the snow was falling today. It was... My throat.
What do you mean the snow's falling? Wait a minute. Are you kidding?
No, we had snow this morning for like 2 hours. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
well, you know what? Now I got to say, isn't it the first day of the hockey playoffs? So we can have snow. It's all right.
Oh, my Oilers lost tonight. To your sense.
What? You just told me that? I recorded the whole game. You weren't supposed to tell me
that.
You
didn't tell me that. I thought you were a Kings fan.
No, heck no. I'm a Sharks fan. Are you kidding? Oh, you just spoiled my whole night.
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
Spoiler alert.
I'm going to spank you next time I see you. You know, all my friends know, they even mention a score of a hockey game during playoffs that I have the right to pounce them and beat them up.
Well, I don't see an invite to be a guest at your Paracon, so...
Well, you just ruined the first game for me. Oh, my God, I'm after your butt. Okay.
That's okay. You know what? It's on now. It is absolutely on, because I'm a diehard Edmonton Oilers fan since 1979. We haven't played in the playoffs.
Now, if this is on, what are we betting? Okay.
I want to speak at one of your conferences.
Okay. All right. If your Oilers win, you're into the next conference, okay?
I would appreciate that. I want to speak at your conference.
Now, if the Sharks win, then what do I get?
I'm going to send you a bunch of free Spaced Out Radio swag that is coming here very, very shortly.
What if I want to speak at your conference?
You know what? I will bring you up for that.
Okay. What conference do you have?
Actually, I was going to talk to you about this, because I am actually starting this year, September 29th through October 1st, the first Spaced Out Radio conference up here in British Columbia. And you know, it's something where I was going to talk to you about this. You know, because I don't know what your time is. I guess we're
doing business live on air like I do all the time, right?
Absolutely. We're, you know, being the first one, you know, we're a little bit tight on budget, but, you know, next year, if everything is a success this year, we're just going to roll everything into the following year. And then that's where we start getting bigger and better. So I'm going with a lot of local guests this year. And
now you've got to bring me up for it. I'll tell you why. My parents live in Portland. I can get up there easy, and I won't cost you much. Okay?
Let's do it. We'll talk about that after the show. I'll bring you on.
Okay, great. Okay, everybody heard that. Now he can't back out of it now. You guys all heard it.
I'm a man of my word. I love this.
I have so much fun on your show. I swear to God, it's a gas. Okay.
All right.
Anyhow, what are the questions for us tonight?
Well, the whole conference aspect. My guy, Everett Thiemer, he actually went around looking for a bunch of conferences to see where we could get Spaced Out Radio in. And the one thing when we all looked at these conferences was how it's the same people, almost like on a bus rotation. You know, just hop in the bus, go into the next town. You know, why is that? Because here's the one thing that I've known. I've had some very big name guests on this show, and I've had people who nobody knows. And yet, for the most part, it's the people who nobody know who become the most popular because they have brand new, fresh stories, fresh ideas, fresh thoughts. So why do these conferences out there, and I realize namesake brings in money, I do get that, but why do they keep rotating through the same old people year after year? Like some of these conferences, you can go, and besides maybe the changing of one person, it's the same people every single year.
Yeah, I know. And bottom line, Dave, there's no mystery to this. I know all these producers. I know them well. As a matter of fact, somehow we all end up meeting up every year at a couple of them. And I can tell you this right now, money is the bottom line with these people. They will not take a chance on an unknown, and they certainly won't take a chance on somebody who's controversial. They will not take a chance on people who don't have a cult following already built in. They just won't take a chance on anything. And I find that really sad, to be honest with you, because it's not answering, it's not addressing the real need of the populace. And what it's doing, it's dumbing them down on purpose. And I think, subliminally through mind control of some sort. And I use the word mind control very loosely here, folks, but I'm talking on a very social, economic level, a cultural level. I think we're at the point now where these people understand that what they do influences the outcome for people monetarily, and they, in so many subtle ways, but knowingly, influence what we believe in and what we buy as far as the books in the community and what have you. They're not going to bring in some guy that they don't know they can control. They don't know if they're saying something bad in their books about somebody else that they have at their conferences. They just don't know. And it takes a lot of vetting. It takes a lot of, what is the word I'm looking for? It takes a lot of vetting of these people to make sure that they fit into the mold that they want them to fit into, that they can bring in enough cult following with their stories that, it's going to work for them as a producer. I hate to say it. I think it's manipulated, contrived. I think it's all about the money, and I think it all has to do with what they can influence people into spending. And really, that's it, because my conference, I hate to say it again, I didn't make any money off of this one. And I do hope, with all my love and everything I've got going for you, Dave, I hope you break even. Because that in our game, when you're telling the truth, breaking even is the goal. Because you're never going to make the money these guys make, because they will sell their soul to the devil to get people in that door.
Well,
literally.
We lucked out because one of my good friends in town actually runs a resort here.
Oh, great.
So they have a big party room upstairs in the main building that we are turning into a conference center, and they host a lot of conferences. And we got an absolute screaming deal on that.
Good.
And, there's 46 hotel rooms in the area. It's called Spruce Hills Resort. And there is, we lucked out. We absolutely lucked out. And he was the one who actually brought it up to me. He said, Dave, what do you think about doing this? Because as they're refurbishing the resort, they want to make sure that they have people coming in for conferences and everything. And
you bet.
I got the weekend for $250.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, That's what I used to do, Dave. I used to rent community centers in places like that when I was doing this on a smaller scale. And that's how you got to do it. People... I went into a hotel again this year because people kept saying, Lauren, you need to get back into a hotel. So I did it. I lost my shirt, but that's not the point. The point is I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you kind of have to here, there's really not a choice for me. But where you're at and what you're doing and what you got it for, that is simply amazing. And you know what? I hope you make a ton of money, and I know you will. And what you're going to do with that money then is you're just going to make it a bigger and better conference next year, right?
Well, exactly. And one of the secrets that we're trying to do for next year is we are actually going to be efforting to bring in the man who does our music, Mr. Bumblefoot.
Oh, Bumblefoot! Oh my God! Can I actually touch Bumblefoot's foot?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're going to see, and I've already actually mentioned it to him. I said, if it's a success, we'd like to bring you up next year. He goes, if I'm not touring, I'm there.
Cool.
So,
very cool.
But I mean, there's travel costs and everything to go along with that, right? So
there's all that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd kind of have to bring a band up, but this resort that we are at, the Spruce Hills Resort, way up here in the 108 Mile Ranch area, British Columbia, literally
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to my drive up there already now. See,
it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
I'm all excited. I've got relatives up there. I can go hang out with people I haven't seen for a long time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, about time you do. But the resort where we are having it, they have literally offered to pay for the rooms for all of our speakers. They have opened up. We're working on the pricing. I think they're dropping the room rates by like $60 a night to $99 a night if you want to stay at the hotel there. Usually it's around $150, $160 a night there, but they're dropping the rates for us. We have an actual private bar set up.
Really?
Where we're going to be
so excited.
Where we are going to be actually hosting 3 live radio shows each night.
Well, can I host one of my live radio shows?
Absolutely, you can.
Yay!
Absolutely.
Oh, God, this sounds like fun. I can't wait to get up there. Like I said, Dave, that spare room, if I get up there, I may not come back.
It's yours. Eric, if he's still around, I know he's trying to track down David Adair right now. We'll give him the couch. I got a big comfy couch. He gets the couch.
Okay. Well, you know what? David Adair, I will get David Adair for you guys. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that this weekend. I have to call him anyhow. So all is done. It'll be
Love
done.
you. Thanks, Lauren.
You bet. I just love doing work on air with you guys. I wonder what the audience is thinking about all this. They're going, oh, God, they're talking just like they've called each other for work purposes. So maybe we should get back to questions. What do you guys think?
Exactly. And there is a good question from Dennis in one of our chat rooms here. Dennis is actually asking, he goes, where are all the young researchers? Why aren't there more, I'm forgetting the name.
Where are they?
Ryan Sprague was the name he brought up, and Ryan's been a guest on this show. Just a great young man. But
I don't know who he is.
Oh, he works with Shannon Legro on Into the Fray Radio. And
Ryan, how do you spell his last name?
Sprague. I'll get you his contact info after this.
Okay.
But
I'm checking him out.
Ryan is a brilliant young researcher. I would say he's following quite closely in the footsteps of what Nick Redfern has done. Even though, you know what, with Nick, I have sent him in the last couple of years about 6-7 messages inviting him onto the show, and never once has he returned a message.
That's because you're not going through his publicist, which I go through.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, he lives near me, his publicist. I'll take care of that for you, too. Don't worry about it.
All right. I appreciate that. But
no problem.
Where are the young people who are studying this? Is nobody is this just taboo to the millennials?
I don't know. And I'll tell you, this is interesting you bring this up tonight, and thank your Dennis for the question, because at my conference, I have 2 young ladies. They aren't young. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. And they're considered young in our group of UFO people. Trust me, folks. They were 2 of the youngest people there. And they basically said to me something very interesting. They said that all the people we talked to about this, don't believe in it the way that we do. Because us older folks, we take it at face value from a science, and we come at it, even though it's all kind of woo-woo, we do come at it from a more scientific approach. She said that all the people that she talks to, including her boyfriend and the other people that she's asked about this, they said, oh, I look at it more from a Comic-Con graphic novel point of view. That it could be real and that it's not really real, but I want to live that adventure instead of the, oh my God, aliens are real and they're going to, conquer us from Mars. They're all living in a graphic novel now. I mean, the whole Comic-Con thing, the whole superheroes, the Marvel comic books, the resurgence of all the movies with them, Wolverine, I mean, you name it. That's what these guys are into. They're into the vampires in the movies, and they just don't want it. They want to believe it's real, but they would never accept that it's real. But it's like a persona that they can take on and pretend they're that person. So superheroes and that type of thing are very real to them, and they want to believe it's real. That's what she said. She goes, my boyfriend wants to believe it's all real, but he has to hold down a job. He has to do things, so he knows it's not. And so they don't see it the same way we do. When, people talk about UFOs and aliens, they kind of go, oh yeah, it kind of falls into that same category. And, ghost busting is on TV. That's what they consider it now. They consider it, someone else does it and they do it for TV. And it's probably all fake. So it's very different than what you and I see, I mean, I grew up, reading tarot cards, and I'll never forget the day that this guy took me. He was a security officer for the old St. Vincent's Hospital. I was about 17 years old. I think he was 19 or 20. I can't remember. I think I was dating him at the time. And we were talking about how he was going through this place. And we're talking a huge area, one of these big old hospitals out of brick and humongous and, miles wide, felt like miles wide, but had an insane asylum in the basement and, the whole bit. And he said, he used to say, I'd go in there at night and the doors would shut behind me and I'd hear voices. And I said, oh, let's go investigate. I mean, here I am, 17 years old. I'm like, yeah, let's go investigate. So I went in this place with him many a time, and it was just haunted as heck. I saw a nun in this top window one day, and I'm running upstairs trying to catch her, and all I heard were these feet running, and it sounded just like the nuns in my old church, when they'd be running around with their skirt. It's hard to explain, but when they wore those old habits, there was that sound of their skirts rustling. And I could hear her running around on the top floor of this hospital, but I could never see anything until I'd go down at the very bottom of the steps outside and look up in the window, and then she'd be there staring at me. So, I mean, these are the kind of crazy investigations I was doing. So, but I don't know, I don't run into kids who say, yeah, let's all get in a car and go down to an old haunted place anymore. And go check it out. I don't know. Maybe they'd rather stay home and watch it on TV. I don't know. That's my guess. That's my answer, Dennis, is they all want to stay home and watch it on television. Okay, did I answer that one?
I think you did. So when you were setting up a conference then, how do you decide between money and the emotion of the speaker?
How do I decide between it? Oh, I would never say to myself or anybody around me, I'm doing this for money and I got to have, the 5 regulars. I would never do that. I can't. I couldn't live with myself. If I sold a ticket to somebody and those were the 5, main speakers I had, or the 5 usuals, I couldn't do it. I couldn't live with myself. I just couldn't. That's an horrific thought, Mm-hmm. It's just not me. It's not Lorien. Lorien would never do that to a soul, not a soul. I'd give away the tickets for free if I had to have those 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 and that one woman that I won't mention, and the usual suspects. If I had to have them at my conference, I would give away the tickets and I'd apologize. That's what I would be doing. Oh, God. I'm so bad. Just
don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel.
Oh, my God. Should I just say their names? Oh, my God, no. Okay. I'll be quiet now.
Let's get to another question from Dennis. He is asking, Lorien, have you ever gotten scared to death when you get up on stage to read in front of a crowd or reading the crowd?
Oh, my God. You know what? Dennis, you are just an amazing guy. You must be reading my mind tonight. I was just thinking about the time in Las Vegas that I got up and I had my whole PowerPoint presentation there, and somebody said to me, "Oh, we can't play it." And without that PowerPoint presentation, I had no idea what I was talking about, right? Luckily enough, they brought it up and they got it working after a couple minutes of me starting. But, you know, Dennis, I had the most amazing transformation that day I've ever had speaking in front of a crowd. And I'm gonna digress, and I'm gonna go off on a tangent here for a minute. I want everybody to know that I stuttered as a child, and I went into dancing because I could not speak very well. I still have trouble speaking. I just want you all to know that being on radio has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I flunked my speaking class in high school. Well, I didn't flunk the class. I flunked that section of whatever class it was. Because I could not get up in front of people and talk. I would start shaking so badly that I would throw up. I'd have to run to the bathroom and be sick. So speaking in front of people was never part of my idea, and that's why I became a professional jeweler, potter, artist, because you do that alone. You don't talk to anybody. I became a professional dancer on stage because I love being on stage, but I hate talking. So the acting career went out the window. I did take one semester of acting, and I did take communications in college, and I tried to be on radio in college, and I tried to be on TV in college, but I was so petrified every time I did it that I just knew it wasn't going to be for me. So now we fast forward. I'm now on radio, which I got tricked into, by the way, and now I realize I wasn't tricked into it. It was meant to be. But at the time I was tricked into it. I had to have my father on my radio show for the first month, and I think it was 6 weeks. It was either 4 or 6 weeks. He had to come on after about 15 minutes because I was shaking so badly that I would get sick to my stomach, and I'd have the garbage can by the desk, and I would be sick in the garbage can, and he would be talking away about finances, and then after a few minutes I'd be okay enough to get back on the show, and then we'd take a break, and I'd be like, oh, thank God. And I made it, and the only reason, I swear to God, I made it through that first month and a half without quitting, because I've tried to quit 3 times before the show started at all, was because Nighthawk told me, "Oh, you've only got 22 people listening to you anyhow, so don't worry about it." You know, thank God he said that to me, because I found out later there were, 20,000 people listening to me. But, at the time I'm thinking, I've only got 22 people, thank God, And so anyhow, now let's fast forward to the conference when I'm petrified. I'm standing up there and I'm absolutely petrified. This is about 3 years into me speaking on radio, starting to speak at conferences, and my PowerPoint's gone, and I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And the strangest thing happened, Dennis. I just sat up there and I said to myself, angels, I don't know what I'm going to do, but you better start talking through me because I have nothing to say. And the next thing I know, literally within 20 seconds, I start in this whole thing about angelic protection, and my life as a psychic. And I went into this whole thing, and my PowerPoint came back up, so I was able to actually interweave what was coming through me with my PowerPoint, and I think it was a very powerful presentation. A lot of my friends who were there said it was the most bizarre, cool, fun, and interesting talk I've ever given, because they'd never heard this kind of thing out of my mouth before. They were absolutely shocked that I was talking about angelic protection. So anyhow, this all came through me. I had nothing to do with it. Apparently it was a great talk, and I don't remember a word of it. So I just want to let you know that, Dennis. So God does listen to us when we're in our moments of need, especially if we wake up every day and we say to him, well, what do I need to do for you today? More than, what am I going to do for myself? And that's how I start every day, too. I get up and I do my meditation, and I say, okay, what have you got planned for me today? I'll try to get to it as fast as I can. and that's part of the battle. We are truly in a battle here, folks. We're in a battle for our souls. We're in a battle for our minds, and most people don't even realize it. And that's the scary part for me, is that, I try every day to get up and just say, okay, let's let everybody know that they're in control of their destiny, not this dark, whatever it is that's controlling us right now that might be leading us into World War III, which I'm very concerned about. Have you guys talked about that on the show tonight?
No, you know what? We try and stay away from topics like that. The one thing that we have done in polling our audience is they come to us as a getaway.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you one bit. I haven't talked about it on my show yet either.
Yes. So we try and stay away from that. And, I guess the way I look at it is there's so much fear-mongering going out there right now that it's just, for me, it's not worth it. Unless all of a sudden bombs start to fall in North Korea, then I'll start maybe broadcasting it on the show. But until that happens, I'm probably going to be staying away from it, taking my journalistic side and staying away from it because, people need an escape. And so that's what we're...
Oh, yeah, like me tonight's a great escape. I'm pinning you all down and I'm saying, get your own mind back. Get your own mind back here.
I have a question. I have a couple questions from our audience here for you. Eric is asking, do you mind talking about Bruce May, who just spoke at UFOCon San Francisco,
Bruce.
Who says that he was an alien?
He is an alien. No, he totally is an alien. I have no problem with Bruce. Bruce is a very interesting character. I've had him on my radio show on IRN several times. If you look up Mr. Bruce in my archives at IRN and listen to the shows, you guys would be absolutely amazed. Bruce is how do I describe Bruce? Bruce is he's a Christian. But he goes way back in his lineage, as he is telling us, his alien lineage, to Melchizedek, which was the original Christ, which was also all the Christ, which is Buddha and Muhammad and Christ and everybody that is considered a religious figure in history is actually supposedly Melchizedek, who is the one. Okay, so this is what Bruce goes back to, and he absolutely believes. He does work for a Christian ministry in his home state of Arizona, and he is an amazingly, interesting and very supportive to the Christian community kind of guy. Having said that, he also absolutely believes, and I have a tendency to absolutely say, I think he's telling the truth, folks. I think this guy is an alien-human hybrid. Absolutely. And it's hard to describe why I think I know that. Again, it goes into what I believe, and you guys don't have to believe me at all, and you don't have to even believe him. But there's something when I get around him that tells me that he's telling an absolute truth. Just like Cynthia Crawford, who always has been telling people since I met her back in 2010 that she is an alien-human hybrid. And from the first moment I met her, I felt this weird connection with her that I feel with Mr. Bruce also that is hard to describe. It's like they're not quite human, and my soul knows it. And that is the only way I can describe it to people. And you don't have to believe me. Like I said, I have no proof. I have no evidence. And I'm the one who sits around all day long telling people, give me proof, give me evidence. So you don't have to believe me. But my heart does a little skippy dance and sings a little bit when I'm around these people that I know are hybrids. And you can be a hybrid in many ways. As a matter of fact, I'm beginning to wonder if all humans aren't hybrids. And I'm even wondering even more so if the people with Rh negative blood aren't all more hybrid than the rest of us. Because I think we were all manipulated at some point. Okay, going back to Mr. Bruce. He told us a tale of his experiences communicating with his Martian predecessors who are actually still there on Mars. He swears he is having telepathic communication with them, that there were past civilizations on Mars that were taken out, and he has basic, what I'd call instant recall memory of these incidents that happened on his home planet of Mars. And he is still in communication with the people that are living there now, and they are our predecessors as humans. And he has so many more stories about this. I mean, the guy is a phenom of information. That's another reason why I don't as much question him, because I truly believe some of the stories he's told me. And the reason I believe them is because I haven't heard those stories just from him. And there is one in particular about Armageddon that he has mentioned to my group of people at the conference. I gave him quite a long time to speak. And at the end of his presentation, he talked about the coming Armageddon. It isn't quite the Christian Armageddon, but it's a very similar one. And he is not the only one that I've heard describe it in the exact manner he has over a 30-year period of time. And the other people that have told me the exact same thing is going to happen were not people that are very famous in the UFO community or the paranormal community or even the Christian community. These are people I've met through different walks of life that, again, I took their story, I filed it away, and I said, boy, I hope I never hear that again. Honest to God, folks, this is horrific, that what he has described to me and to the audience there at my conference about the end of our world as we know it. And I have heard these similar, almost exact stories from other people over the years. Now, the thing about it is, like I said, these are not people anybody knows about, and this is something in the UFO community that they don't want out there. They don't want people talking about it. You will never get a speaking gig if you talk about Armageddon with an alien invasion. You'll never get that. I am probably the only person that I know of that's put on a conference that has allowed that besides the Christian conferences. And so that's what Mr. Bruce talks about. He does talk about some very good things as well. So, I have no problem with letting him present. And as a matter of fact, I think he'd be a great guest for your show, Dave. So,
yes.
What was the question? What was the question? Oh my God.
Daryl wants to know, how can someone tell if they are targeted? What methods are used to control someone? Can they give electric shocks remotely?
Oh my God, yes. Yes to all that. Yes, you can be controlled. Yes, there are ways to tell. Yes, they can do that electronically. God, there's microwave seems to be their favorite mode of getting to people, because microwave can be controlled in directionally a lot better than electricity can, for that matter. But electricity can too if it's tapped with a laser type of. Anyhow, long story short, Daryl, is it Daryl? They can get you any way they want, and it used to be very hard to take over a person. And I'm going to go to a story about the book Camilio by, what is his name? I had it on the tip of my tongue last night. I can't remember it right now. I'm looking at his face. Oh, well, it's gone. But anyhow, the book Camilio, if you guys look that up, okay, can't remember. Anyhow, he was telling the tale about his heroin addict friend who gets targeted by the FBI, NSA, CIA, DARPA, you name it. It's a long story as to why it all happened. But they got to the point where they were making him believe, and his friends that went into the house with him, that his apartment was actually shrinking and growing in size on the inside. They'd walk in and they'd feel like they're in a vast cavern. They'd walk in one day and it'd feel like they were in a little tiny cave. And they were doing this by electronic means. They were beaming something from a satellite, and they got confirmation that it was from a satellite at a later date in the book. You will read about this. This is where you're getting some actual proof, folks. This book is very important. It's called Camilio. Robert Guffey, is that it? Robert Guffey, I think. And thank you, Dave, for the time down there. Anyhow, so point to all this is that they have means now where they can actually harm you physically as a targeted individual. They can get into your mind with electronic and microwave type of beaming that will make you hallucinate, and anybody within a 20-foot area or 30-foot area around you hallucinate the same thing. How's that for fun? And I'm going to bring up something I don't talk about too often, and I'm going to do it pretty quickly here. I had a friend named Ron Gilman who died a couple years ago now, who was a targeted individual, who at my first Super Soldier Conference that he was part of in 2013. He was eloquent. He was able to talk about his targeting. He was able to explain things to us. He was able to show us proof of his residual effects to him on his body. I mean, we had all kinds of interesting information out of Ron Gilman the first year I had him speak. 2014, I brought him back to speak again. In that year's period of time, they had done so much electronic frying of his brain and his frequencies and his neuropaths and everything else they could do to him. Plus, they also made him a drug addict in the process, that he was basically a blathering or blithering idiot by the time he got up on stage. Not that it was one, but he presented a video where he said he could see aliens and all kinds of stuff that they were electronically stimulating his brain to see that only he could see, but he kept thinking everybody else could see them too. So this is the kind of stuff they do to people. By the time that 2014 conference was over, I had people coming up to me and going, why do you let this raging idiot get up on stage? And I said to them, I said, my God, you of all people are giving me a bad time about what's happened to him. Don't you even understand what that is proving to us right there, him being on stage, telling us that he actually sees these things? I said, this is telling me that's how much control they have over you. So you better be respectful of him at least until he leaves here, because the poor man he's an example of what you could be turned into. So, mind your P's and Q's about, giving him a bad time. Just pray to God that they don't turn that weapon on you. And this is the kind of stuff they do to people, folks. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I have seen some horrific control of people's minds. I've watched people deteriorate in front of me. I've also watched people fight back and win the battle. I have a friend named Nina who is fighting the battle right now. She's an amazing woman. She's been a targeted individual for years now here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they finally made her homeless after destroying her lower leg with radioactive something or other. Anyhow, her leg is all fried, and now they've made her an invalid, and they've made her homeless, and she's still fighting this battle. So, it goes on, and I don't even know where to start with this, Daryl. I mean, yes, the answer to your question is yes, they can get you in any way, shape, or form they want. You just gotta, you gotta fight back. That's all you can do is just keep fighting back.
We got about 2 minutes left with you, Lorien, and I want to get to Daryl's question here. And she is asking, do you think Morgellons is a mind control tool, or that they are targeted individuals?
No, I think, it is. I think it is, but I think it goes much more deeper than that. I think it's an alien. I think it has to do with alien-human hybrid. I think it has to do with that whole program. I think it's part of their adaptation of turning us into more of a transhumanistic type of human. I think that they're experimenting on how much non-human, how can I explain this? Not like electronics they can put in our body, but how many non-human proteins can live in us, how they can control us through that. I mean, we have found out recently that we have another brain in our stomach, folks. Can you imagine if they could take some kind of Morgellons type of neural net and hook it into our stomach brain, what they can do to us? I mean, think about it. I mean, these are things I think about daily. I hate to say it. And I think Morgellons is a precursor to having some type of alien interface that grows within our own body structure. And I know more about it than I can talk about on the show tonight. And at some point, I will give a presentation at a conference about what types of things they are doing to the human body to turn us into alien antennas or mind-controlled Borg type of organic beings. And that's all I'm going to say about it tonight.
Lorien, when can people find your radio shows and find out more information about your conferences?
Oh, God. Okay, the next conference I've got coming up is my online JFK conference on May 29th. We're celebrating JFK's 100th birthday. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Roger Stone is going to be my opening speaker. They're all coming to LA. We're doing it out of a TV studio. It's going to be so cool. I hope you guys can make it for that. Go to jfkconference.com. May 29th, Memorial Day here in the States. You can sit home, barbecue by your computer, and watch the conference. It'll be so much fun. And I think I'm going to be speaking at a couple more, but I'm not sure where they're going to be at right now. So check out my website. That's lorienfenton.com, Lorien, Fenton.com. How's my radio shows on there as well. And I never update it. So hopefully I'll get around to doing that so you guys can find me if you want to talk to me. That'd be great.
And just so you know, I'm really hoping Joe Thornton and Brent Burns get their beards trimmed by my Oilers.
Oh, no. Go Sharks.
Yes.
Go Sharks.
No, not at all. Lorien, Eric, you guys hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up. If you're listening in on the terrestrial radio side, you hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL singing us on out with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot, the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Really appreciate Lorien Fenton and Eric Markham coming on in tonight. This was a fun show. The Crypto Guru was supposed to be on, but due to health reasons, he couldn't. So, we had a great show indeed. Thank you for all of your support. Remember, for more information, you can go to spacedoutradio.com. Check out our plethora of features on the website for you. Patreon.com if you want to become a patron of Spaced Out Radio for $1 a month. Thank you to everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, and on the United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We do this thing every night of the week because we love to be here. And by the way, John, you did make me laugh. United Airlines now offering not only red-eye, but black-eye flights. Love it. Thank you for making me laugh, everyone. Thank you for being part of this. Do me a favor. Tell a friend. Let's spread the word. We want to own the night. You have a good one. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.